Hey everyone, welcome to the Montreal Java user group with Max Anderson about Let's Make Java Fun to Use Again. So this is our team with Henri, myself, Marion, Rohan, and Anthony, and David. We are pretty much everyone is here. Our event, we thanks Banque Nationale, Adaptive, and Alitia to help us organizing the Java user group events and also the DevOps for Kids when we are able to do so. And we hope to start that back, let's say, by the end of the year. And our speaker today, like I said, is going to be Max Anderson. You can speak to him on Twitter with the hashtag #MaxAnderson. And we don't have any meetup scheduled yet, so it will be mostly well-deserved holidays. And about, let's say, what we need to talk to you about, I'm going to let Anthony speak about an event that you could watch pretty soon. So go ahead, Anthony.
Ouais, bien sûr. Bonjour à tous, je parle en français. C'est une des langues du Jug, n'est-ce pas? Du Java User Group.
Désolé.
Hello Max, bonjour à tous. Oui, je voulais vous parler de nos amis de Québec, la ville de Québec. Leur Jug va renaître de ses cendres enfin. Donc nous, ça faisait plusieurs mois qu'on parlait un peu avec eux et ils nous disaient, ils nous avaient exprimé leur volonté de redémarrer le Jug. Ils s'étaient rapprochés de nous autres, Montréal Jug. Et puis, ils ont enfin une date pour leur prochain événement. Je vais donner le lien ici dans le chat. C'est un lien Eventbrite. Alors, je crois que je suis sur Private Chat. Je ne sais pas si je l'ai mis au bon endroit.
Tu l'as mis au private chat, je vais le copier.
Ouais. Essaye de le copier partout. Merci beaucoup. Donc, c'est ça. Donc, ça sera quand ça va se passer. Ça va se passer bientôt. Donc, ça va être le 15 juin. Ça va être en virtuel. Donc, c'est organisé par l'équipe du Jug de Québec. Donc, et ça va parler de Quarkus et d'OpenShift. Donc, c'est ça. Écoutez, on passe un grand bonjour à tous ceux parmi vous qui nous assistent et qui regardent nos événements depuis la ville de Québec. Et on est vraiment super excités de savoir que vous allez reprendre contrôle de votre Jug et que vous allez avoir de nouveaux événements. Bref, que votre Jug renaît. Donc, ça, une spéciale dédicace à tous les gens de la ville de Québec et sinon, même pour ceux qui sont à Montréal et ailleurs au Québec, vous pouvez aussi assister à cet événement-là, puisqu'il va être virtuel cette fois-ci. Donc voilà, c'était ça le petit message qu'on voulait passer aujourd'hui. Je ne sais pas si on a d'autres annonces à faire. Henri, je sais que tu as toujours beaucoup d'annonces, non?
No. I don't think I have anything this time, and I'll be in English because I just want to say a word.
Not even Henri Tremblay to the cast coder.
Oui.
There. Yeah, for those subscribing, there's episode 2 of the cast coder with me speaking. Ah oui, c'est vrai, là, tu peux le faire en français, ce bout-là. Oui, donc j'ai été la deuxième partie des cascodeurs que j'avais fait, je sais pas, le mois dernier est sorti. Pour ceux qui veulent écouter ça, on parle de Java avec José Pomar, on parle de Java jusqu'à 16, 18.
Module.
Moi, le module, des trucs comme ça. Je suis en grosse discussion avec Rémi sur la mailing list aussi. Il a pas raison. Le chat de ma tribune. Mais c'est toujours intéressant par contre de discuter. Donc, oui, il y a ça. Non, sinon, il n'y a pas rien de spécial.
Donc, c'est ça ce que tu disais, Xavier, c'est qu'on n'a pas d'événement prévu pour cet été, donc on va certainement organiser quelque chose pour fin août ou début septembre. Probablement septembre.
Comme d'habitude, en effet.
Ouais.
Peut-être en présentiel, faut voir, on verra.
Ouais, ça serait super. On va essayer de faire ça, mais on peut rien garantir malheureusement aujourd'hui. Ok, on démarre. Max.
Ouais, ça je veux dire. And yeah, I'm really happy to have Max with us because he's one of the guys that I've wanted to have here, and Xavier had the great idea to invite him. You're not coming to Montreal enough, so we can have you in real. So we have you right there, but you'll present yourself afterwards a bit, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'll let him present himself better than I do, but it's one of the almighty founder of Hibernate and many other frameworks. So a really important person in the Java world. And that's it.
Okay. Bonjour pour tout le monde. Il y a bien de Neuchâtel, mais ma français c'est pas vrai pour faire une présentation. So I'll continue in English just to save your ears, basically. So yeah, I'm Max Anderson. Yes, I was part of the foundation or early days of Hibernate. And what I do in my day job is actually working on Corkers. But what I'm going to present today to you is something that's separate from all that. It's connected, but it's not tied to anything with Hibernate or Corkers, but you'll see that soon enough. So anyway, my goal today is to talk about how we can make Java fun to use again. Because I feel like over the last couple of years, we've seen things getting worse and worse, in my opinion. And the way I want to make it fun to do again is with Jbang. And the best way I can show you that is to first show it rather than talk about it. So if you go to Jbang dev, you'll see a website where you have all the instructions you can do. And if you want to try out Jbang, you can actually try it out directly here in the browser. There's a Java app here, and when you run it, it actually runs via Jbang. So if you want to try out Jbang very quickly, you don't have to install anything. You just go to Jbang dev, and there's a little replit thing in here. But it's a bit more fun if you can get down to the command line, if I can find my command line. So anyway, on Jbang dev, you get an app called Jbang, and you can do stuff like Jbang init hello Java. And then on the file system, you get a file called hello Java, and I can then run it. And you say it'll build the jar and print out hello world. That was me trying out my first hello world in Java. And for me, that's much easier than having to know on how to set up an IDE, set up a build system, etc., etc. And if you look at the code, it's just there's nothing else specific to it. And you go, well, I can do that with Java. I think it's Java 11. You can actually run this thing. You just say Java hello Java, and it'll do the same thing. So what's so special about Jbang? Well, you can do a bit more. So let's say I'm going to build a CLI, and we just say hello CLI. Same thing. I create projects or a file. Now I have two files, and if I go hello CLI this time, you will see a build going on. Says hello worlds, but I can also do help. Hopefully, correctly. And you see like normal command line stuff coming out. And the reason why it does that is because now I'm actually using dependencies. So here is my dependencies up here. And then I use the code. And if you've used just normal Java, you wouldn't be able to do this because Java on a single file has to use stuff that's on the class path directly. So you have to manually download it or use stuff from JDK. So this is actually how Jbang started was, hey, why do I have to use Python or Bash to do stuff on the command line when Java can actually do that already? It was just missing that little helper. So that's where Jbang started, and it's kind of grown from there. And I'll walk you how it is. But I'll just the whole nice thing is that here this is hello world, but just to go to the complete opposite of the spectrum. Again, just a single file. I have it here pre-installed. And let's see where it shows up. It's a bit slow because I'm streaming, but okay, it's gonna. There's a little. Oopsie daisy. I'm gonna get my screen. It doesn't want to let me get back. Come on. Go down. Won't let me choose the screen. That's annoying. That's all this sharing. Let me just click. Let's see if this goes better. That's enough. I did this just before. Give me. Here we go. And now my screen is frozen. Great. So what I'm showing, this is actually a game engine I'm starting up here. I just want to show it can actually run more than basic things. For some reason, that's being very slow. Here we go. Yeah, so basically here, this is a game engine with physical simulation. And it's a bit slow because I'm on the stream. But my point is, that little piece of Java showing a full game engine is nothing but just Java code that is about, I think, 200 lines of code. And just imagine, like, there's no build setup, there's no download of anything. It just is easy to get started with. So that's Jbang in a nutshell. You can start developing with Java, write Java, get dependencies, and you can write hello worlds or full game graphic engine or an app server, application, microservice, what you want to do. There's kind of no limits to it. There are some limits, but just to get started, there isn't. So what am I trying to do here with Jbang? Well, I see this thing as like the world of Java is like a door that we all know how to get to, but there's stuff in front and it's in a dark alley, and it has to be an enterprise to do it. It's like a dark place to be sometimes. And of course, if you know how to find a big entrance or you know who worked there, you can always get in, but it's requires effort. Versus having an open door where there's people and there's like green lights, is more shiny, happy things. And the way I'm trying to talk about it is like, this is the world of Java versus the world of Python and Node.js and Go. Those ecosystems are more inviting and easy to get started with compared to Java. Not because Java couldn't be, it's just hasn't been the thing we've been doing for the last 25 years in Java. And of course, what I'm trying to get to is Java can be a brighter place too. Because I honestly do believe that it's not because of the VM or the language or anything that's a prohibitor. It's just this getting started experience should be much, much easier. And I believe that once you have the getting started experience much easier, getting to explore and try things out just becomes a natural thing that you do every day. So yeah, so what I'll do today is talk about Java in a lot of ways, about how you learn Java, how you run Java, how you build and package it, and just see how that works in a Java kind of world. Oh, sorry, in a Jbang kind of world. So I already showed you how to get started with Java. With Jbang. And the default demo I do here is like the minimal one of Hello World that just prints out a few things. But just to show you the core things of Jbang is, first there's a line on top that says // user bin env. I'll come back to the slashes. But this just is the trick that allows you to run the script directly on the command line on any Bash or C shell environment. So which is supported on Linux and Mac and on Windows in a Bash shell, Git Bash, or what's called the Windows subsystem. And that allows you to treat JavaScript as any like you used to for Python or Bash or that kind of thing. The three slashes at the beginning is kind of where the Jbang name comes from. That you have to have a what's called an exclamation point and a pound sign. And that triggers you to run the shell script. But to do that, you end up with a problem because you've put that instead. It'll be a syntax error in your editor. So I use this trick of using two slashes for a comment. So the first one is just a bash going to the root. The second one is it's a Java comment, meaning I can use it in Java and IDEs. And the third one was a fun one to discover that if I only had two on Windows, it will think it's a network path. If I use 3, it tricks it to think it's a root path. So those 3 are there to work on most platforms. And then the other part is the dependencies. So /steps is a comment. So Java just ignores it. And it's also good. I don't have to have a compile program to read it. I just scan the source code. And then there's a gav, as you know, any kind of Maven or Gradle artifact that you use in the ecosystem. And this is just a dependency to render fonts on a terminal. And then there's the code, and you just run it. And you'll see the printout, and it builds the thing. And if it runs again, it doesn't. It caches it, so therefore it's first and second. It's faster on the second run. And you just have all the abilities of Java available to you without having to know about what's a compiler, how do I download things. I just run this, and it's all there. Okay, so another thing. So this is the first thing about stepping learning. Like getting started is very easy, and you don't have to learn about anything but like the Java language, and then understand the notion of dependencies, which is something every language does out there. Go or any other modern language, Go, Python, Node.js has similar concepts, but we just kind of skip all that part and just it's in the file. No need to use the other stuff. So the consequence of that or side effect is if you take like a traditional this is like a simple Java layout on disk, and everyone who's been doing Java for more than a year or plus will have seen this of, okay, we have like a README file, we have a build, there could also be a POM XML, we have the wrapper files, we have the source, is like hierarchy, and like every class we have has a single class of its own. And if it's a bigger product, you'll have even more kind of thing. My point is that just for a simple little application, you are already defaulting if you go to any IDE today and stuff, you get this kind of layout by default, and I think it's wrong. It's not bad, but I just think it's wrong to start with. So in Jbang, I don't need the Gradle stuff. I don't need an extra separate file to do that. So that's one step. I don't need the extra layer of the directories. I can use it if I want to, but I don't have to. And then technically, you don't need to have every little piece of your Java class, any inner class stuff you have, or helper classes don't have to be external. Java is just fine by having it in one file. I want to point out Jbang supports moving files. I'm just making a point here that Java's default to be complex and very fine-grained and everything split out doesn't have to be that way. And the thing is, this is actually enough for Jbang to run, but I can even go one step further because this little app I showed you, or this layout, was actually a kubectl. Kubectl is the one to control OpenShift, Kubernetes clusters. And you can write plugins for it. And there's a typical pattern you use in kubectl or Git and others, that you have like the base of the CLI dash the plugin you want to run, right? And so Jbang actually understands this. So if you have kubectl dash example, it will, and you run it, it'll go like, okay, I'm gonna call that kubectl example behind the scenes and run it for you. But the cool thing is that now you can actually use it in a kubectl command. So again, this is the first thing I wanted to do with Jbang. I wanted to use it as make Java something I can use on my command line. But when I did it, I realized not only makes it possible to run in Java, but it also simplifies greatly what you need to do. And just compare this like a single 2 files to explain what you need to do, and your Java code versus the one on the left. They are completely equivalent. I would argue that the right side is easier to get started with versus the left side. You be the judge, but that's my opinion. Okay. So multiple files again. In the early days, I actually thought we would have a problem with that, but you can actually do that just fine. So you'll see here as a class called MyApp that refers to app.name, which is another class in the same package. Java-C will do, which we use behind the scenes, will just do that fine. And you can actually even also here I'm saying, hey, I want the index.html I have on disk to be mounted on this location, meta and resource index.html. It could be a manifest file, it could be resources, it could be anything. It gets packaged into the jar, so you can do that. And then there's also /sources. So you technically don't need this as long as the sources are reachable relative to your file. But if you want to do the editing that I show in a few minutes, then you'll want to have those. Okay, so you might think, hey, if that's a Java file, I'm used to if the only thing there is a Java file, there's no POM XML or build Gradle. How do I actually get to it in an IDE, for example? Well, that's the nice thing. I'll just show here. For example, if I take, oops. So we had this hello world thing here. So I'll just go Jbang edit. I'll say open because I want it to be an IDE. And Jbang will kick off an IDE. By the way, I could also put like equals idea or Eclipse or that kind of thing. But I actually made it so that Jbang has, if you don't have an IDE, we will install one for you. This is VS Codium, which is like VS Code that has full Java support, etc. And syntax highlighted. And if I'm lucky, I should also be able to say. For some reason that doesn't work. Why? Java is still starting. That's the thing. Command line. Here we go. No. Command. There we go. Right. So you see there's content assist based on the dependencies I had in there. Right. So again, this comes back to getting started and learning as a user, starting into Java, or just like what I've started to do now. Like any computer I get to, I install Jbang with a simple line. I don't need to have IDE or Eclipse or anything installed. I can just start writing immediately. And as I said, there's a default one that we download if necessary, but you can always use Eclipse, NetBeans, IntelliJ, VS Code, any IDE or any editor you want to that has it. What we do behind the scenes is we generate something that looks like a Gradle project, and most IDEs out there can actually, or any modern ones can handle those. So my point with these things getting started is that it opens up the closed door becomes an open door. You can get started very quickly. The Jbang init, you can run them. You just get the dependencies and you can edit it in any modern IDE. And not only does it gets you started quickly, but something I realized once I built it was suddenly I don't need to. The fact that I don't need to go and create a POM XML or build Gradle to try things out. I just go, oh, Jbang init, hello world, and then I add a dependency for this new project, and I can try it out. No extra setup. I can copy code from a README or a doc somewhere and just put it into a file, add a dependency, and run it. And in 9 out of 10 times, it just works. And the fact that I don't have any other files explaining and just sharing my code becomes nothing but just copying into an issue tracker or put in a gist or that kind of thing. There's nothing else to it. So that's been very an open eye-opening thing for me, that when I build it to scripting, but then suddenly I realize all the other stuff that I can do with this. Okay, so sorry. The other part is now we started learning how is it about running in Java. What can we do better with Jbang? Well, first of all, when you run in Java, you need to figure out how to pass arguments and how do you debug stuff that is running. So First of all, you can run stuff like Java, your app called Java. Or if you want to use JShell, those who don't know, JShell is this little REPL for Java where you can run individual lines of Java. You don't have to have the class, etc., but it's just like a, you can enter Java and see the results. So you can run those, but you have to go JShell -q xyz to get it. But arguments is not supported. If you want to run a jar, you have to do java-jar. And if you want to be Maven, it's Maven exec Java or Maven Java exec run. There's all these different ways to do it. And again, they're not all bad. But just imagine you're a student or someone needs to learn Java. This is just kind of, I feel like, overwhelming. So I just kind of reset that and go like, well, I can run them as scripts. So you don't need to know there's actually a compiler or stuff behind it. And whether you're on an XYZ Java, XYZ Java Shell, or XYZ Jar, we would just do it for you. Like we can see on the extension what it is you need. And passing parameter are just the same thing. And people go, why is that hard? Well, that's the thing, is that JShell doesn't support passing parameters. So even though it was an ultimate thing to use for scripting, the JDK doesn't actually have a support for it. So Jbang wraps it and adds that kind of support. Same with debug. Instead of having, the long line you have to do to add debug, and of course, if you use an IDE, you never see it. But again, explaining to a student or someone new to Java how to do the thing, I feel is still overwhelming. So I just go jbang -debug, and then it's all set up for you. And then you can go to your IDE and connect to it. And of course, if you don't want to use the debugger, you can just debug it in the IDE if you want to. But my point is that it's uniform in Jbang compared to Java. There's one thing that's lined through here is this JShell, because unfortunately JShell itself is relying on the debug connection, so there can't be two of them. But that's an unfortunate limitation of the VM, not of Jbang. So, but that was the basics. Let's just go a bit further that's there, and that is, well, why not just run a Java file? Why not just run a Maven coordinate? So you can do that. You Jbang, and then you have an ID for your little Java app that is posted in the Maven repository. You can run it. What if you have a GIST somewhere that's on GitHub? Yeah, you can run it. And what if you go to your browser, your GitHub or GitLab, or there's one more, Bitbucket, and you have the URL on top? Well, just copy it and run it. You don't have to go and copy the text or whatever. You just share the URL. Jbang will run it for you. There's a Carver Now, which is like pretty printing tool, often using tweets, etc. You can run those too. I actually had support for running tweets at some point, but unfortunately Twitter removed the support for viewing the tweets content without having JavaScript. So I was like, I'll just drop that. And then you can also, of course, just run any URL with a jar or Java file anywhere on the internet. And by the way, it will warn you if you're running something you haven't seen before. So it's not like it runs for free. But the point is, you can run anything you can think of. And of course, once you start doing that, you go like, well, I don't want to remember all these things. So now there's a notion in Jbang called aliases. So here I'm saying, hey, can you add an alias called CLI for this Corkers CLI, for example? And now after that, I can just go Jbang CLI. I can also refer to catalogs. So here I'm saying CLI at Corkers.io. So the Corkers.io GitHub organization has a Jbang catalog, and in there is defined what an alias is. And anyone can do this. So if you have a repository somewhere, you can put a Jbang catalog, and Jbang, instead of having to have a long command line, you can say, hey, just run this thing. And I'll give you some examples further on how they look. So for me, the whole running of Java is fairly complicated. It's been very limited over the years, and I feel with Jbang, it's just kind of like a drop the mic of like if you can come up with a way I have missed that we can run, please let me know, because it's the thing I can share and access and run with Jbang is just it's very fun basically. Okay, building of Java. Or build with Java. So the first thing I have is in Java, there's basically two, Maven and Gradle, but and still exist out there, just for honorable mention. And what I say again is nothing bad about them, but you're not gonna need it, at least not in the beginning, right? At least not initially. And that is again what the Jbang command does is actually building a jar behind the scenes and then run it. And it's not matical or anything, it's just using standard things we've done for the last 20 plus years in Java. But Jbang itself has a build command. So you can build and it won't run it. And if you do Jbang run, which is the same as running Jbang XYZ directly, it will build it if necessary. And there's even support for native image for GraalVM. So Jbang -s native will, if you have GraalVM installed, will compile a native binary, and that means on the second run you go, it'll be fast to start up, assuming that you have a setup that makes native images, and that becomes relevant in a few seconds. So things I've been doing to build and run stuff is my kid is 6-7 years old, and he's into Minecraft, and I was like, hey, I can try and play it out and see how that works, because Minecraft is written in Java. And I went and looked at documentation for that. That was like pages and pages of how to set up an IDE and get started. I was like, what's going on here? So the minimal instructions for how to get started with development on Minecraft with Jbang is you first have to download the Minecraft server, but then you go into this module directory and you create your projects, and you do Jbang export. So this will actually take the exam plugin and create a jar on the disk. If you don't do export, it will just run it, and the jar will be in its cache. So export is like taking the thing that Jbang built and put it on disk somewhere. And then you can start the Minecraft server. Okay. And again, I'm using Minecraft here because it's fun, etc. This could also be an app server. And you could have a single file that you put into the deploy directory, and it's the same kind of concept. Right? Jbang allows you to do that. Mindstorms. Oh, my robot is not here, but same thing is that if you do Jbang export of a Java file, it will not, the dependency will point to actual places in your main repository. But you can also do Jbang export portable, and that will create a jar that has everything next to it, and therefore something you can actually copy over to something. And that's what I did as a proof of concept with Mindstorms Lego. And again, Mindstorms is just more fun, but that could also be like a remote container or remote deployment somewhere. Jbang has just enough to do that. And my point is that you don't need a full build setup to do this. Again, main reason, I don't want to have to deal with Maven and Gradle setup just for doing basic deployments, build and deployments. Of course, if you do more, sure, go fun. But for basic stuff, let's not try and force that on people. So builds. So I built another actor is Corkers, which I understood you're going to hear about next time. But if I don't know, it's Corkers is a project that is targeted on container-enabled applications, but it can be used for other things too. And it actually turns out that, hey, the approach that Corkers does is it actually does things at build time rather than runtime to speed things up. And first of all, Jbang isn't a build system or anything like that, so how does that work? But with the Corkers team and me, we kind of like, wait, I have these pieces, we can actually do it. So there is actually an extension point in Jbang. So as soon as you have something on the class path that says it's a Jbang, understands Jbang, which Corkers does, we will actually hook in the build. You'll tell, hey, we'll build what's needed, and then say to the app, in this case Corkers, hey, do you want to do anything additionally? Then Corkers goes and do its thing and runs. And that means that Jbang not only works with you can run anything, whether it's a Spring or whatever app, but with Quarkus it actually does it in a way so it's super efficient. So you can write microservices with Jbang, again, without having to learn Maven build tools, etc. And even crazier is that when you do the Jbang native, which was using GraalVM, in this setup, it will actually Quarkus say, hey, don't call GraalVM, call me, and then you use Quarkus understanding and setup of dependencies for native image that will more likely actually work. And you can do that. And then Quarkus has all this access to container builds, etc. You can do that from Jbang too, because Quarkus has this kind of built into itself. Jbang itself is just a very simple hook, and then just married it together with Quarkus, so we have full enterprise functionalities. Way more than any other little script thing out there. Okay, so for me, the Java build thing is you're not going to need it, and just keep it simple and don't repeat yourself. It's a very, once you try it, it's very liberating, to be honest. So yeah, with Java has very powerful build system. You should use them if you have bigger projects, but for microservices and smaller things, no need, and especially not for when you start with Java. Okay, packaging in Java. This is a bit more detailed, but the typical for developers versus users is in developer will code it, commit it to Git, build a thing, publish it somewhere, Maven or whatever, and then ship it out and tell people to go use it. And then the user will have to download Java, install Java, download the application, install the application, and then run it. And of course, you can compress some of these, but still, in principle, those are things that are exposed in the default world today. So how does that work in Jbang? So first of all, how do you get Jbang? First, if you go to Jbang Dev, there is a ton of different package managers you can use, like Scoop for Windows, Chocolately for Windows, Brew for Mac, SDK for Linux and Mac. There's Yum and Snap and Docker, Maven, Gradle. There's all these different things. But there's also just a normal curl thing that you can run on all three platforms if you have a bash environment. And this will set up Jbang on any kind of environment. And if you're on a Windows that doesn't have a bash thing, there is also command for you there, as long as you have PowerShell. And so yeah, so basically you can get Jbang in all kind of shape and forms. It's a 6 megabytes download, so it's very quick. And then the thing is, well, where is Java here? Well, the thing is, Jbang will actually download Java for you if you need it. So if you run Jbang on any file, Java file, it will download Java 11 for you by default. But you can also specify --Java 15, and we will go and get the Java 15 from adopt.openjdk. And I want to make sure that this is the fallback. So if you have Java installed in the past somewhere, Jbang will use that by default. It's just if you don't have any set up, we will go fetch it for you. Or if you ask for something that is not installed locally, we'll go get it. And that means you can do things like try things out. So for example, here is in the records of Java, I'm specifying //Java 14. Plus means I want at least Java 14. I put in the enable these Java C options, Java options again. You put it in, and Jbang will put on the command line when it's relevant. And I could then, when I wrote the slide, Java 14 or 15 was out. And the point is, I could try out new version of Java before Gradle and Maven could, or any IDE could, because I'm just using standard Java. And again, I don't have to go and figure out how does the Maven and Gradle stuff work with that specific version of Java, a new version. Jbang is just using plain like process command called javac and called java, and there's no extra setup, because since at least Java 9, all stuff has been unified on how to compile and build stuff works. And just be clear, Jbang works with Java 8, but I definitely recommend people to use higher just because of speed and the more richer API. But you can use Java 8 with Jbang if you want to. Okay, so how you develop a code, publish tests, and ship a Jbang app? Well, you create the file, you code away, and you commit it somewhere, and now you can run it. And then the thing will figure it out for itself. So as long as you can download Jbang, you're good to go. And if you want to, you can actually install an application, and then it's available as a command. So this is like npm install or pip install, but just for Java, right? So now we don't have to see I don't have to install like a gazillion node modules just to run a little script somewhere. Okay, so packaging in Java, all these different steps. In Jbang, you just code and commit to Git, and the user just run it. You can literally just a one-liner, you can run any Jbang application out there. It will download Java for you if you need it, and it will get the dependencies for you, and off you go. And if you don't want to use Java code, it goes to be a jar. Jbang will also be able to just get it for you. And this is the one-liner thing. You just say curl, bash the command, and off you go. Okay, and if you install it, you go install the app, and then after that, you can just go with my app. Oh, sorry. After this, the my app will just be available as something you can run. Okay, so I talk about these catalogs, and this was just saying I can go, like the JRuby guy has a Jbang run at JRuby. So if I go, that's my terminal. I lost my terminal. Let me get a terminal. Here we go. So if I go, whoops, Jbang run, oh, where is it? The name now. Jbang and JRuby, right? Whoop. Come on, go away. Here you go. Oops. That's a bit slow to start. Let's make sure I Jbang really clear. There we go. So I'm just, this is JRuby, and just sending an expression in, which the JRuby command can do, and then I should get a print back. And for some reason, it takes it. There we go. Max time in the job. So this is Jbang, optionally downloaded in Java, running the JRuby setup with just out of box. And this all works because run at JRuby. There's no file here that's called that. That's all in. And now I lost my browser. Great. Here you see there's a, for example, Corkers.io Jbang catalog has this JSON file with things in it. And if I go back and click the right link here, see the JRuby Jbang catalog. There's a Jbang catalog here that says run is this dependency, and off you go. Right? So that means you can like package and distribute any kind of Java application you want to. Okay, let me just get back this to presentation mode. Yeah, so I have all these examples, and anyone can make them if they want to. So for me, Jbang makes it easy to get started, explore any API, and just focus on the code. You can run anything, and but by mean anything, I mean basically anything that is Java related you can do. When you do builds, just use Jbang. Then you don't got anything else, at least not to begin with. And the packaging just code commit run, very easy to get going. So yeah, so it's Jbang is at 0.71 now. I've done 170 releases in the last 15 months. So we're hopefully getting close to 1.0. But just to talk about what that some of the things I've said I wanted to do is, just like I can run things on the command line, I also want to create things. So you saw this init-t, some template name. That's all internally in Jbang before, but you can. I wanted to be able to also just have anyone publish any kind of example or any kind of templating, and make that something you can create. I want to have better caching and make the seconds run faster, because this Java VM is a bit slow to get started. I wanted to have support for bombs, which is very important when you do like Spring Boot applications or Corkers. And I want to be able to kind of publish thing. And I actually realized a month ago that all three is actually kind of been done. So the one command above is actually something that works. If you run this, you will get a layout on disk of a Corkers app that is connected to GitHub and has a README file and can get started. So it's like a Maven archetypes, but without all that overhead of having to publish a Java somewhere. You can just have a GitHub catalog somewhere. The better caching, we've done some improvements, but I still feel we can get better. The bomb support is in there. And then the publishing thing, it actually turns out that I didn't have to write one. Because in Jbang, I had a ton of different ways of packaging and deploying, all custom written. But Anders Almaray, which some of you might know, did a product called JReleaser, and it actually takes that stuff and just generalizes it. So now you can actually use JReleaser to release Jbang scripts, yeah, that's awesome. Then I don't have to add that functionality to Jbang. So anyway, in short, for me, Java has all these features, but with Jbang, I feel like all this stuff is much, much simpler to get started with, and it's just easier to deal with. Yeah, a few other things is lately, we have now an app store. Everyone needs to have an app store. So if you go to Jbang and click on App Store, you actually see here, there's a whole list of people who published catalogs. So if I go here, you'll see, like for example, Gap Search. One of my, it's a little utility that can search on in Maven. And if I click that button, I get the command. I'll just put it here, you can see. And I could put that in a command line and just run it. And the idea is you'll see there's actually some here. Hibernate guys have started doing examples that you can run and try out. And yeah, this, for example, the last thing I actually did, you can see HBD. So this is actually my own little creation. So here you go. If I paste this, it's gonna run. I didn't call that P. Hold on one. Oh, for some reason that doesn't work. Why does that not work? Let's see if I can fix it quickly. Well, that was a bad demo. Anyway, if you run that in a normal circumstance, it will just serve out a contact, like if you can use like a Python or NGX to do it. And again, this one actually just use normal Java, no extra setup. So anyway, the point is that these this catalog is here. So if you add something into GitHub, it will show up here and people can find it that way. Or of course, just search on Google. Another thing that came in lately is Kotlin support. Again, that came out of the Corkers work. So in Corkers, we are adding, we have Kotlin support for a while, but we kind of improved it now. And I got tired. Well, I complained that it's annoying I couldn't actually run those Kotlin apps with Jbang. So we did it. So now you can actually use Kotlin in the same way as I've shown here with Java. It's still early, but the basic stuff is there. So if you're into Kotlin, you can do it that way too. Okay. Oops. So my question to you is: do you feel like Jbang is a better Java, or at least this is more fun? I believe so, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. But in my mind, what I've done here is make Java something I can actually use and teach my kids or teach the students, and I can share things, I can try out things much faster than I could before. So if you want to help, like I really want to spread the word about it, because a lot of people still don't know, or they think, oh, that's a new thing that can build stuff. We don't need that. We have it already. I feel this. The great thing is Jbang is not competing with Maven and Gradle. It fits in. You can have both Jbang and Maven stuff in the same project if you want to. So if you want to share about this, awesome. I'll make a Jbang catalog entry somewhere. Yeah, that'll be awesome just to see that kind of spread out. Okay, so anyway, if you want to try it out, here's a different ways of doing it. And there's a ton of contributors. I haven't updated it, but this couldn't been anything without them. So thank you for that. And if there's any questions.
I do. Can it does some kind of Uberjar? Like you use it, you create your app, and then you package something without Corkers, like standalone jar that it works by itself.
Yes, it can. So let me see if I can give that example. So for example, that's hello CLI here, right? That one has a dependency. It has hello. Oh, sorry, I used pet. This has a dependency. So I can do two things. I can do Jbang export hello CLI, and it will give me export local. There we go. And you'll see it actually there's the jar for what's needed. And then I'm forgetting the command. It's going to be help here. I'll get it. Portable. So the thing is, if you look into this hello CLI jar, it's a jar with in its manifest has a link to your local disk.
Okay.
But if you do export portable, hello CLI Java, it might fail because I have the file already. Yeah, I'm just going to delete the old one. Hello. I do this. There. So what it does, it has a hello CLI jar, and then there's a libs folder that has the content in it. So you ask for Uberjar. So I don't have it because no one has asked for it yet. But technically, it's possible to do. I just felt it wasn't. There hasn't been a request for it yet. So if you want it, then ask for it. You can see. But I want to. I try to keep it lightweight. So here it's just you can take this the hello CLI jar and libs and move anywhere else, and then it will run.
But in terms of to export, sorry, Henri, just to export your to export your work, you would rather export them as native, no? I mean, if I'm thinking about my users, maybe they don't have a JDK installed on their machine. Maybe they just want to be able, to just run the CLI that I have created for them. So maybe in terms of exporting, if I were to export, for example, in a GitHub release, I would rather publish the binaries, right?
Sure, but if you go Jbang that's native export, so I don't have the GraalVM set up here right now, so you'll see it actually gets done. This will actually build. That's it. Anyway, the point you can. I've got the name, but I can do build Jbang that's native.
Mm-hmm.
It'll fail now because I don't have GraalVM set up. But then you can take that and export it as a binary. You have the binary on disk. But the problem, of course, and this is not Jbang specific, it's just like you'll have to run that on every platform, like on Linux and Windows and Mac, right?
Yeah.
But you can. Like there's nothing for it. So you can build this native, export as a binary, and off you go.
Yeah.
but I want to point out, like, the users do not have to have Java installed because Jbang will get Java for them.
Right, but we would still need to install Jbang then.
Sure. Also, the command will be yes. That of course you can do the native binary if you want to, but that has some downsides too. But yes, you can do all the combinations.
Yeah. And I also have another question. It's not exactly related to exporting your work, but I think you mentioned testing earlier on. So what would a test look like if I were to test my own CLI with Jbang?
So I don't have a full setup yet, but a few things I've done and seen is because it's just Java, right? You can actually have your CLI, hello CLI.java, or sorry, hello anything. And then you can just write a hello test.java that uses that class. And then you just run that hello.test. And in that hello test, you could have unit tests, etc. So I can actually give you an example where they've done that. Let me go back to my browser. So if I go to, where was it? Jbang div. Jbang div.
Also, I have seen a question in the chat while you are searching, Max. Carl was asking. Yeah, Carl was asking if it uses Maven repo dependencies. I think it does because I've also noticed in your on the website on Jbang website you're also able to provide authentication to for example to a remote Nexus repository as well.
Yes, it supports yeah. So Jbang will default use the Maven ~m2 repo repository. So if you have the jars already, it doesn't have to go fetch them again. But you can also put it somewhere else, and you can also you can do / repo in the top of your file like this. So if you want to do dash repo day central, well, the day is shutting down, you just do this. Or if you want to have Maven central and Java Red Hats, I think. So I have some shortcuts in that's built into Jbang. There's also Google and a few others.
I have a question on that.
Yeah, you can do something like this. repo.io. And then you'll be contacted too. Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, I have a question on that and about the multi-file configuration. Do we need to repeat every dependency in each file, or can it be done only once?
Yeah. So hold that thought. Let me just answer the one with the testing, but I'll get back to that one. So I just want to show you the. Oops. I feel like I'm missing. There we go. So this is highly reactive. There have a reactive test in here. So you see, so this is actually using a lot of stuff. So it's using test containers to start a database for once. But you see here, it's like /s steps for all these different. Let me zoom in again so you can see it. Dependencies, and it's using JUnit, and you'll see it's just a reactive test. And here's some setup. I'm just going, where's the main class? Main method. Go away. So you'll see here, the main method just says, use JUnit core to run these classes. So you can imagine you have multiple files. So you have your file, your Jbang normal Java stuff on one side, and then instead of having the whole test setup that Maven Gradle has, which is great, but here you can just have a separate file that just refer back to that one and run some tests, have some tests, refer to the class, and you can then run it. I have some ideas of maybe avoiding everyone to write this main method and have that something Jbang supports, but right now I haven't done it because I feel like this is kind of more in the spirit of Jbang of not being too magical. But yeah, so you can do all kind of testing if you want to. And then your question was, why is I feel like I'm missing a window.
Multi-file context and dependencies.
Yes. So okay, well, okay. This is quantum. It doesn't matter. Yes. So you can see the first command. The Jbang treats the first reference Java file as the root of everything. So the dependencies from there will load it, and if it refers to another file via the sources, it will also get the dependency from that file. So you can decide to put everything in one place or spread it out if you want to. I do recommend to put it in one place because that's nice. It's simple.
Easier to maintain, yeah.
So the answer is yes, you can, but you can also do some fairly. What was that? Type anything here. You can also. I don't know why this is being so hard for that one to do. Open. That's not the file. Java. You can actually also refer to remote locations. So you can actually have a file on disk that refers to, I can do this. Sources, HTTPS, GitHub, blah, 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 max.java, whatever it is. So you can actually compose a Java file of other things. I don't recommend this, but you can. So you can do multiple files. You can have it dependencies in one file. You can spread it out, and it will still work. Yeah.
And do you have Max? So thank you for your answers. And yeah, for test, yeah, that was pretty interesting. How you could also interact with test containers. You know, it's really yeah, it's very trendy. It's a very trendy project in terms of testing. So yeah, very glad to know that you integrate well with it. And I was wondering if you had any examples on top of your mind that would be widely used and that are based on Jbang. Do you have some CLI such as, I don't know, like kubectl or brew, or I mean, this kind of widely used CLI out in the world that are built with Jbang?
No, I said no. No, but there are. Again, it's about getting people to actually see and realize what they can use for it. I want to highlight a few things. So there are, like, I have published some, like the HPD, which for some reason doesn't work, but normally does. I have the gaf search, which is so I can do gaf search at Jbang dev search for hibernates, or yeah, right. And so the answer is no. There's no major big one yet because it's still fairly new and people are still not realizing what they can do. But I want to highlight Jbang is not only for CLIs, right? I do it here because it's the simplest thing to demo, right? So here I have a CLI. I search for Hibernate in Maven, and I can find a dependency, and I say I want to have the Maven dependency cradle stuff out. So that's just a feature I've implemented. But just to show you, to make it clear, so if I do Jbang init, so I have some templates called qmetrics, for example, test.java. I just run this thing. This will actually now, this is a Corkers app, but dependencies are going to get Corkers. 1.11, it's been a while since I've had that one. So it'll take a while. But once this is spilling, you'll see it kicks in the Jbang, the IO Corkers Jbang integration. It starts up. It's very slow here because of the streaming. And this is not a CLI. This is a full-blown web app. Once it's there, right? So this is, if I go to browser, and I think it's hello. It's on. what's the number? There we go. If I put a number, it does something with it, right? This is not a CLI. This is basically a microservice. Let's see here, test.java. This is using, again, get the dependencies, and this is a JAX-RS application written with Jbang, right? Other things that I've done is, again, if you go to jbang.dev, you'll go and see here, download. So there's all the different platforms you can use to get Jbang and run it, right? But you can run it via a Docker container. You can run any kind of thing, but also GitHub Actions. So you can actually use Java to run a Jbang script inside a build script in GitHub. Or if you wanna use Maven and Gradle, you go like, why would I use that when but that's the thing is, with Maven and Gradle, to extend it, you would have to write some code and deploy it somewhere. Here you can just run the Jbang stuff. And for example, GitHub Actions, we've done a lot of those in Corkers, that we just, instead of having to deal with Node, which is, again, great, but if your team is not experienced in Node, I just used Java API. And Jbang allows that in a much simpler way setup than it's the typical Maven Gradle setup in Java. So please don't see Jbang as a tool for scripting. That's what it started with. But literally, it's a generic tool now to run any kind of Java application. And you saw I was running a Windows, a gaming engine thing. I can run JavaFX apps too, right? So if you want to do desktop applications, you can do that too. So basically, any kind of thing where Java can do, Jbang can be applied to make it easier to get started with.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, got it. Yeah, sorry, I was just focused on the CLI part, but yeah, okay. I think that the concept of catalog that you have and that that allows you with just one one-liner to actually be able to generate applications like this on the fly. That's
And the cool thing is, you don't have to use Jbang to actually develop the app. The app could be a full Maven Gradle project. It just creates a jar. And then instead of telling people to download it, and instead of, you just go Jbang jar, Jbang the name of a jar somewhere, and it will get it. So you can use Jbang just as a runner, not as a builder, so to speak.
I have a question on that. Let's say I start prototyping the app with Jbang. Will we have at some point the possibility to generate the Maven or the Gradle file to, let's say, to become more industrial?
So I don't have the feature, but I'm just, the way I've done Jbang is I'm waiting for someone to ask for it before doing it, because I don't want, unless I something I use. But you actually, when I do I have all the code to do it. I just use it now. When I do the Jbang edit, you'll see what's a low CLI. So when I did that says opens IDE. Oops. I added in this that doesn't exist in the complaint. There you go. On is that one. Try again. You'll see what it does. It actually prints out what something it generated. So let me go to that directory. Actually, let me just go do this. Jbang edit. So CLI Java. Right. So it generates it, takes output, and cd into that directory. Long place. And this is actually a Gradle project. So you could take this and move some of that. But I do actually want to have the Jbang export Maven project or Gradle project, and then do it more controlled. So if you're after it, open it, and then that'll give me enough reason to take this and turn it into a specific thing.
Thank you.
But in this context, well, sorry.
Go ahead, Anthony. I can switch.
Sorry. Just in this context, when you start editing using Jbang edits, since you have a build.gradle where you could actually import some dependencies, what is going to be the preferred way? I mean, what would be the best way to declare dependencies? You would still declare them indirectly in your source file, right? I mean, the build.gradle is just here to be able to build a project.
Gradle there is purely there for IDEs to recognize it.
Okay, yeah, just for the IDE usage.
Yeah, right. So, and the thing I didn't show, but for example, if you do open and then press live, hello, let's see if you can pull this off. Hello, need to go back here. Jbang, edit. I go open to get the IDE, and then live. So you'll see, I picked it up. So let's just delete that so it doesn't get confused. So let's say I add a dependency, or I want to change this to, well, what's the dependency we can go get? Just for fun. Actually, let me go. I'll do this thing. Fluent process. Just to show another thing. So I'm going to take. Imagine this is a dependency. This is actually a GitHub repository. So I can put a dependency here that deps normally, but I can also put a URL to a GitHub repository with a project in a branch. And now when I press save, you'll see here in the background, it's regenerating the project, and it's going to resolve the Pico CLI and this dependency. So the live thing is, so I edit stuff in IDE, I add dependency. Do I have to go back to command line? No, I can just run it live, it'll update it. And then in here, I should be able to now do, if I remember correctly, what's the dependency?
So the IDE build.gradle, I mean, the build.gradle that was created for the IDE has been regenerated.
Yes, and you'll see now that my IDE in here refers to Fluent
exactly.
process thing, right? So now if I refer to, I think it's called, I should have, the Fluent process is in I can code assist with it, right? But this is another thing that I didn't, because one of the things I could talk about, like I can refer to GIVs, but I can also refer to GitHub repositories. And then what we do behind the scenes is I convert this over to a Jetpack URL. I don't know if you know Jetpack. Jetpack is this thing that if you give it a GitHub URL, it will actually build this thing for you and it exposes it as a Maven repository. So I've used this for, so what I actually did here is Fluent Process is another project I forked, and I have a custom branch that does something for me. Instead of me building and shipping it or whatever, I just refer to that URL like you do with a Go module. Just say, take that URL and treat it as a Maven project, and off you go. Again, this is a bit more like, people go like, whoa, that's different. But that's the kind of thing I've been trying to do, is just make it so I can try things out without having to set anything up. And if you notice, I haven't built that Fluent process or anything. I just have the code, change it, commit it to Git, and now I use Jetpack IO to make that a transparent thing to refer to in my build. And by the way, you can do all of this in Maven and Gradle, but it requires just a lot more setup.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's super. I mean, I really like the way that you have tried to bring all the goodies that the NPM communities, Python, and Go communities they benefit from. You have
Yes.
just bring all those benefits back to Java. So yeah, that's super interesting. Thanks.
Have you a little bit out of non-technical questions?
Sure.
Do you know if it's already used by teacher? I'm asking that because there's been a lot of discussion. I think there's even a JCP group now talking about how we can teach Java to students and why Java is too complicated and annoying and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I tried a few times to get their ears, but they don't seem to connect on like they want something in the JDK, and I'm like, you're not gonna get this kind of thing in JDK for a long time. But I have contact with a university in Greece who is trying to, well, at least they said they would try and put on their students in this next fall. And I get the same question every time I present it. Is there anyone that does it? And I said, I think if anyone wants to do it, please contact me. And if there's anything missing, I'll add it in. But I literally, all the stuff I've done about the templates and make it easy is purely out of the last 20 years in Java, having to explain how to set things up. I just say, I don't want to do that anymore. So I believe there's all the pieces in here to make a full training, and the only thing you need to tell the user, run this curl or download this jar. Download this zip file and unzip it. Then Jbang will get the Java version for you. It will set out the product via templates, and it will even get an IDE for you. You don't have to set anything up there either. And if you want to use Eclipse or IntelliJ, you can do that too. But for me, this, like, I'm claiming right now, and no one objected so far, is that with this, Java is the absolute easiest development environment that you can get to on any machine. NPM, I don't know if you try to install Python on your own, or actually NPM, Node, etc. It's actually quite hard. With this, it's all kind of accessible.
It's something strange for me, because the complaint is, oh my god, Java needs a lot of setup and da da da. Also, oh my god, we need to add the main class, and there's a class, and so we need to explain things. With JShell, that there's less of this class and thing you can script. And it's true that to use Ruby it never works, first of all. Then you learn to use RVM, so it kind of work after that, and it's extremely painful to configure. Python is the same. There's Python 2, Python 3, and then you need so I do not found Java that terrible, even without Jbang.
No, but so the thing is, so this so the thing is, the thing that inspired me to do it was actually, I was sabbatical for a year, and I went away from Java, and I came back, and even though I had 19, 20 years of Java experience, I was like, man, you require, like, it's just mental overhead. Like, you don't feel it when you're used to it. You don't see it. It doesn't feel it. But once you go away from it, come back, you're like, damn, like, no wonder people go somewhere else where they can just get something without having to think. So here's actually something that I made in context of a Twitter conversation another day. This is the Eclipse collection library that has some docs, and they actually use JShell. So if I take this thing, so it's not perfect yet, but I still have to have a file on disk. I'm gonna fix that so I don't need to. But you'll see here, I refer now to, say, Jbang that's interactive. That means when it runs, it will not just run it, it will stop and be in the shell. And I refer to dependencies on the command line. And now, and again, this is a line you can just as a teacher give to anyone. Run this on your thing. If you don't have Java, it will install it for you, etc. And now I can do stuff like, what is this? I can do this. And I have, this doesn't exist. I need to import that line.
Yeah.
Oops. And there we go. And I can do stuff. What's the command I can do? List. What's the minimum in here? Right. And this can work for any Java library out there. You can fetch with a Maven dependency. And the problem is I made this 18 years too late. People are so used to it being hard and hard to get to. But what I've been trying to do is, when I realized it, like a month after I built the first version of Jbang, I'm like, whoa, and I just kept trying to spread the word and get it out there, and I can see more and more people doing it. And I encourage anyone to try it out. And I saw there's a guy when I posted the game video thing. It was a single file, and you just run it. He was like, "Man, you saved my life. I don't have to teach Python to my 10-year-old because he knows Java." And he's like, "Okay, now I don't have to tell about all this complexity. I'm just going to give you Java. I can help you, and you will be able to build games with this." And the same thing with Java, like the later version of Java, access a REST API, automate anything, home automation, all those stuff that we normally associate with scripting and Python and stuff. Java has a place now, or at least all the ceremony is gone. It's just easy to get to.
Yeah. Thanks.
I have last questions. If you...
Sure.
If I wanna, let's say, add Scala support, is it only a template or is it more complicated than that?
It's more complicated, and I'm very hesitant. Well, I added the Kotlin support because mainly because I wanted for sorry, what?
I said because it's a good language and Scala is not.
I gave the Scala example because I know that there is no Scala support right now. But
the thing is, I did the Kotlin one because I wanted to see how hard it was. Rather, Jason did it, but technically behind the scenes, what Jbang does is nothing but read what is coming in, like which source file am I running on, a jar, a Java, or a Java, whatever. Resolve them, and then, okay, what does it point to? And then figure out, oh, do I have to call JShell or JavaC or Kotlin or Scala? So, but right now, so architecturally, sorry, the way it works in principle can scale out to anything, but it becomes a bit like, so Kotlin is so close to Java and it doesn't introduce anything new specifically to how they run those things. So it doesn't confuse, it doesn't break the the UX, like the CLI. But I think when we start adding like Scala or Groovy, it might be a problem. So it does require some work. You could do it, but I think we might have to change a few things just to make it nice. But it's one of the things I also don't want it to add too much, because then becomes suddenly there's too many flags and too many things you can do. Right now, it's just about.
That's why I said template, because if someone wants to add it just for them, it could be done. But I understand that it's not possible.
Let me show you how much it was to add for Kotlin. Whoops. And you can see what it is. Blah, blah, blah. There you go. So, by the way, I'm not a fan of Kotlin for the reason that it's a mono, like there's one company back that there's only one IDE that works with it. That's just the principle for me. I don't know why. But you'll see in here. Why is it slow? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's a refactoring in here, but it's fairly. It looks more complex than I remember, but the changes were kind of minimal. And this stuff could be generalized to Scala, but yeah, it's not. I haven't made it generic because I wanted to focus on making Java best. But yes, technically there's nothing that prevents us from adding Scala and other things to it. But yeah, I'm hesitant. But yeah. But there's someone in Scala, I forgot the name now, actually made a Scala inspired one. It's not using Jbang, it's using something else. So you actually use some of the same tricks. It's not as powerful as Jbang, but it lets you run the Scala as scripts
Okay.
in the same way.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
For me. Okay, question. Thanks again, Max. To wrap up, I'm gonna remind to everyone that the Quebec Jug is relaunching again. So the first event is gonna be on the 15th of June with Corkers. So don't hesitate to join them. And yeah, thanks everyone to have joined us today. And don't hesitate to ask questions on Jbang to Max. He will be glad to answer it, and you could help him to contribute. So thank you, everyone.
Merci tout le monde. Bon été.
Bye. Merci. Bonne été. Bonnes vacances.
À septembre.